at me when you said that. I was like, I'm not Elvis.
I know. Austin is not Elvis either.
You are not Elvis anymore.
Who's the keeper of all things Elvis here at the moment, and who really translated?
Say that line. I didn't make that up. He said to Priscilla one day, you know, and what's so incredible is that he says, it's not incredible because he says, I've never done anything, remind me of the line.
He says, you know, I've never made a classic film.
I've never done anything else.
Yeah, I've never done anything lasting.
Yeah.
But you know what's the most incredible thing about that? He goes, I'm almost 40. Wait. And then he goes, 40. The second time. Like, and he dies 2 years later. Like, I'm 60. You know? Like to think that it's all over and he hasn't achieved anything. Now, the second part of the question is a little different. But I learned something only 2 hours ago. I was talking, we had a talk with Sam 2 hours ago. Sam said something, oh, really, that can't be true. So let me step you through and I'll try and be to the point. I mean, you see my movies, they're not always. I try. You see, the real technical part of it is I've always been such an admirer of Shakespeare and the way in which he would take a historical figure and use that figure to expand on a larger universal human ideal. And I was so affected when I was young and I saw Amadeus. And you know, the Schaffer is taking facts of Mozart, yes. And then there's this guy, Salieri. Anyone heard of him? You know, it's like, heard this tune? No. Heard this tune? No. Heard this tune? Dun 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 dun. Oh, yeah, well, that's Mozart. That's Mozart. And I did everything right, God. And you put genius inside that little pig. From this moment on, you and I, God, are enemies. I'm kind of riffing on the movie, but that movie is about jealousy. And yet, it tells you the life of Mozart. And so I was always, I had a fanhood when I was young. We had the local cinema. We ran those Elvis matinees every weekend. So it was in my consciousness. And I have been saying for the last 6 months, you know, it was about, I think, 5 years ago. I know it's 5 years ago I got very serious about it. I had to weigh in. Because 5 years ago I went, Colonel Tom Parker, never Colonel, never Tom, never Parker. And you know, he, another damaged child like Elvis, but for different reasons, needing to find an avatar. And they both rise to the sun and fall tragically in different ways. The great salesman, you know, we were in a time when, you know, you could feel it, you could literally feel that these two great things in America, the new and the sell in balance, we're now getting out of balance. You know, the carnival barker, the put your name on it, the roll up, the come on, the seller was getting way out of balance with the new, the creative. And I just thought, oh, that's the way in. But to answer your question, which I know I'm doing very succinctly to the point, Sam was this morning, he said, oh, no, he'd been talking about Elvis ever since I met him. Right, ever since we met. When did we meet?
We met in December of 1987.
So how was that?
A very long time.
30.
Okay, so he's been in my, apparently since this morning I've been talking about Elvis since then. I don't remember that.
Yeah, we used to argue about it because you
never argue, no, I was
because you felt that he was an extraordinary lens, even then, to see the 20th century through, and that he was an extraordinary historical figure in popular culture because he invented this lasting pop persona and kind of created the idea of a rock star in a kind of modern sense. And we used to talk about that.
Okay, so how do we know each other?
Okay, well,
Do you
oh my
know?
God. So it's
36.
I know I met him.
36 years.
I met him in 88.
No,
87.
End of 87. It's indelibly marked.
Thank you for the marriage counselor. Does that
It does. But actually, if you want to throw me a tip.
I remember the first time that I came over to your house, and we all talked, and Baz and I went upstairs and we talked for about 3 hours, and you showed me some reels that he'd been cutting together, and we talked about so much. I mean, a lot of the stuff that has already been said up here today, but we immediately started sort of pulling back the veil on the icon of Elvis store, that person that's now become somebody that you can just go into a Halloween store and buy something that he wore, and get into the humanity of him, as we were talking about. So we talked a lot about life, really. I mean, we talked about my life and Baz's life and your life together, and because that was the endlessly fascinating thing for me, is who is he in his hotel room at the end of the day? You know, you feel a certain way when you're standing in front of a group of people that are cheering, but what do you feel like when you're alone? What does it feel like to have that complicated thing? You know, we were talking about Elvis being in the womb of Jesse earlier, and you know, being born with your other half gone for the rest of your life. You know, the psychological, the subconscious psychological turmoil of that, of having your other half gone, and the void of that. And so we had a lot of conversations, just trying to figure out what made him tick. What was he like when nobody was around, you know, or when he was just there with Priscilla, or just with Lisa Marie. And that's been the beautiful thing now, is I spend a lot of time imagining and trying to see out of his eyes as much as I could. And now getting to have moments of talking with Lisa Marie and her telling me, you know, when we were upstairs at Graceland, he was just dead. It wasn't until he came downstairs that he dressed as Elvis and went down into the world. And it's just talking about, just seeing him as a father and seeing him as a son and a husband and a friend. And, so those are a lot of, I mean, we did so much, but I'm going to stop there to try to be succinct.
Yeah, well, you know, that 3 hours was way before, that was before we even started what I like to term the workshops.
That's right.
Yeah. Which others call auditions, but they aren't, because I'm quite serious about it. I don't do auditions, and I don't do them. I had an amazing moment with Sarah Pollard the other day. She just came up and said, "Do you remember what you did one of your workshops with me and Romeo and Juliet? Isn't that beautiful?" And it's like, yeah, I remember. One thing about that, because actually that's how it starts, isn't it? Like, Oscar came over to my house. There's a preview to that, which is, you know, I mean, there's the me living the movies, which I do endlessly, you know, living in Memphis, having office in Graceland, and loving the living of the movies, or the possibility of the movies, so much that I hope I never have to make it. And I was carrying this great secret with me, which is I knew I'd never have to make Elvis, because I was absolutely sure I would never find anyone to play Elvis. I made this condition in the studio. I said, only if I can find someone to play Elvis. You know, and then Mr. Miracle here. It's not the normal stuff. Like, it wasn't like, you know, some guy standing against, some actor pointing their heart out to their own. These days, you guys will know there's iPhones and things, but there's a video of this strange young man dressed in a bathroom. Actually, I rewatched it the other day because I thought, gee, actually I was with Fletch. I said, we're going through stuff. I said, Fletch, there's the tape that's on these things. And God, I better watch it. I hope I'm not over, you know, promoting this moment. And we watched it, and Fletch, who works with me, assists, and this director is own Sansi, he said, no, you won't oversell it. And there's this strange young man, he's in a bathrobe. And this is before he's met me, and he doesn't know that Unchained Melody is the end of the film. No one knows that. And he's singing Unchained Melody in a flood of tears. And by the way, what I forgot was, I remember you singing it, but I've forgotten how good a piano player you are. Sorry to compliment you. But it's like watching Liberace, you know. I'm going like, and he sings Unchained Melodies, flood of tears. I'm like, what is that? whoever that is, we have to bring them in, you know. And then we have that conversation, and then I do these workshops, because to me, you know, auditions are never good for anyone. So I flip the coin. I have two rules. One, anyone who walks in my door, I go, it is my mission to get you this role, no matter what anyone around you is thinking. But more importantly, to take the pressure out of the day, because there's always a day, I spend a day, is I would say, I'm going to work with you, and we're going to learn something about this scene I don't know. How can we make this scene on the page better? And so we workshop, and then that means, I mean, Mandy Walker, talking about depth of collaboration with DP, she is there. This is 2 years before we made the movie. John O'Reilly and the editors, they're cutting the footage there. You know, CM is there with costume, hair and makeup is there. And all we do is focus on how do we make a great scene today. The future is not important. You know, acting or revelation of inner life and character. Well, I can write stuff on a piece of paper. I can do all sorts of things. But what I cannot do is imbue the text with soul. And then when you work with actors, and there's such a variety of actors come in, every single time you learn something about the scene that you didn't know from the actor before, because they reveal something in a different way. And by doing that, we're not thinking about the future, we're thinking about actually creating a great moment. And so it's therefore a privilege to me to have an actor come in my space. So he comes in, and well, it is, and I mean that, because like I say, I come from an acting teaching background, and in the loveliest way, Kate Blanchett just said the other night, she was getting an award, and just in passing, she said, oh, we come from a non-hierarchical philosophy of storytelling, and we all went to the same school together. Kate went to the same drama school as Sim and I. Kate's younger sister used to be Sim's assistant. I mean, it's a very small country, so everyone goes to the same place. You know? We all get somewhere there, but you know, sometimes you know. I don't know. But, you know, Judy Davis went there. Yeah, amazing. Every actor after Judy has a little. Nicole has a little Judy, Kate has a little Judy. And by the way, us and Bill said we all have a little Judy in us. And we love Judy. And I said Rain because I did live with her at 18 for a bit. I was in a movie with her as a kid, that's another story. Now we have to go away.
What the scene is from the workshop.
Oh, well, what's it? Yeah. We did several, in fact, let me tell you something. We did several, and there was this one that Oz did several, all of them. We did about 3, I think. And then he sang, and then we did movement. But you remember there was this one that we kept doing, and when I talk about Oz, you know, that I was exploring other possibilities, he came in sort of late in the picture. And, but I always remember in the workshops we were doing this, he just did, I got it. He did such a great job. The landscape. And I went like, there was another one where by working in the workshop process, I realized that scene is wrong. And later when the pandemic came and we shut down, it helped me to realize we cannot meet Elvis in the recording studio. We have to meet him when he's about to go on stage, because fundamentally, Elvis, is it the voice? Is it the movement? And it's the whole package. And more importantly, it's the spiritual package. So that didn't come to much later. But there was this scene, I was going to say great scene, but us just illuminated it. And it was him watching Lansky. You know, you see him in Lansky, and he'd go like, oh, Mr. Lansky, Mr. Lansky. And I'll did it like, oh, Mr. Lansky, Mr. Lansky. I feel so embarrassed I'm doing you next to you. But I'll do it badly, because otherwise you'll have to do the scene, and then we'll be here for too long, right? I told you about my films, I have to really work hard to keep them focused, you know. But it's like, I want to, you know, Mr. Lansky is like, what do you want, kid? You're always bothering me. This is all true, by the way. You're really bothering me. Why are you always hanging around here? Because I want to wear that red suit that B.B. King wore at La La La, and da-da-da. And he goes, you know, television, because I'm going to be on television. It was one of those things where he goes, I'm going to be on television. I'm going to be famous. He goes, I don't watch television, you know. And he goes, all right, can you get the pink jacket down? And he goes, yeah, sure. And he gets it down. He got the money. He goes, yes, I have. I mean, I will. It's one of those moments, you know. So, and I thought, he's so compelling. you know, from that, I mean, I knew it then, you know. I mean, I put in through a little bit more work before I told it, like a year or something, but,
Understatement.
It's even 5 months.
I was preparing you for what was the road ahead. You know? I mean, I think you might have got a little piece there. But, yeah, this is the truth. You know, the truth is that we were making the film when he walked into my house. We were making the film because we weren't talking about it or not or whether we do. We were lost in humanity and life and story of Elvis and our own lives and how that all could be useful out there in the world. And it just kept happening until one day we're about to shoot and Tom Hanks is guiding Austin through the crowd rehearsing in Mufti while the girls are kissing him, and my AD comes over and says, I think Tom has that flu thing.
Oh no.
Boom, shut down, hazmat suit, and the film was over. And I've told the story before, but Tom was suffering, he goes back with Rita. Remember, we all didn't know what was going to happen. And I lost the cast, and the film fell apart, and Austin was still here. Now, he'd been working nearly 2 years, I can say this in front of you, 2 years, day and night, 24/7, on everything. And I said to him, when I got out of the Huskar, you better go back, because we're not going to, look, we might make this film one day, but it's not going to be now. The film's over. And I remember, I can't look at him when I tell this. I remember he was looking out at the ocean and he went, I'm not going. And I said, no, you have to go back. I mean, you can't live in Australia. He said, no, I'm not going. I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping. And he doubled down on, you know, walking on the beach and all of that. And I heard just yesterday he was saying that he covered his whole room. Can you tell that bit?
Yeah, I did. You called it a beautiful mind. It was I wallpapered my entire apartment with a timeline of Elvis's life, so all these images everywhere. It looked like a detective scene in a film or something. And then I would, it was COVID, so we had 6 months where we shut down. And at that point, it was just me in my apartment by myself. And I'd wake up in the morning and think, I gotta figure out how Elvis laughs in this moment. And so I'd listen to all these recordings and find a laugh, and then I'd walk down the beach for 3 hours just laughing out loud. just looking like an absolute maniac, but that was the experience.
Do you know what I'm saying is because you said something that I didn't know, and I think when you're in what I call the acting circle, it's a really valuable observation, and I'm going to use that observation. It's something I've never thought about, but just explain that bit you said about, you know, we had all these great coaches, but COVID actually forced you to have to deal with at a certain point, being on your own. That was fascinating.
Yeah, well, I sort of realized that I like to be a good student, and I want to learn as much as I possibly can, so I was very fortunate to have an incredible group of people around me. Polly Bennett, who was my movement coach, and a karate instructor, and singing coaches, and dialect coaches, and had all these amazing people around me who I'd spend time with. You know, it was almost like a curriculum where I'd spend 2 hours with one person, and then go to the next and the next. It was like I was in school for a year and a half, and then suddenly when the film shut down, then I wasn't at that point trying to be a good student anymore. I was in my apartment by myself, so then it felt like it suddenly became mine, and it stopped me feeling like I was having to be good for them. Instead, then it was going, take all that stuff that you've learned and let it now soak into your bones, you know. And it deepened in a way that I don't think I would have been ready for the film if we had shot it when we were. I think were we 3 or 4 days from starting shooting when.
No, we were
It
like
was the day before.
It was the day before shooting?
One day before.
Because we were shooting,
Vegas first.
you know, those pre-days when you're doing
Yeah,
a
day
test shoot,
zero.
but it's actually day 0. You know, it's a way of sneakily getting an extra day. So we were shooting the drive up to the Hollywood sign.
Wow.
And I remember everyone felt that, you know, the force majeure shutdown was about to happen because Australia was shutting its borders. And it was this incredibly emotional time for the cast and crew.
What it was that drove him to that point. We didn't remember the world. Do you remember the world? It was such a sense of vortex and a loss and a confusion. Actually, to be honest with you, the first sort of week I was like dressing up in white suits and drinking cocktails and going, great, I don't have to make a movie. And Scott Fitzgerald got drunk every night. That was good for a week because I was with my kids and I was like, hey, quality time with the kids. This is cool. But then, and Ost was, we had a little film club that we did by, we tried to stay sane, and the only way we could connect was we would all dress up and pick a film out of a hat and watch the film, and then a film the others hadn't seen, then discuss it, ways of doing all that stuff. But then suddenly this feeling of the film's actually going away, it's not going to happen, and this gargantuan vortex, this feeling, it was like the most panicky feeling, when like after the sort of, you know, no responsibility, it was just like, oh no. And Oz was like, I didn't know at that time he was, you know, gonna be arrested for screaming into the surf on beaches in random places. I didn't know, he was relentlessly just working. I rang Tom, who'd been suffering, went on with Rita, I said, Tom, look, Oster's still here, and he goes, look, why don't we just wait until like February when this is all over? And that was 2 years ago, you know. And I went and checked it out. I said, I just don't think it's going to be over by February. And Oster's still there. And Tom went, he was in Greece. He went, he's feeling better. He went, do you think you get it done by Christmas? I said, absolutely. And he bravely came back, did quarantine, and she came back, and we all came back together. And we love it when we have newbies, like Austin is a newbie in our world, you know, he's only been working with us 5 years, that's new for us. But we have like a fraternity of actors, like Richard Roxburgh, who's worked with me, he went to the same drama school. So, you know, and he's been in like, you know, he's in Moulin Rouge, you know, or David Wenham was Audrey in Moulin Rouge, goodbye, you know. And so we were able to call upon our actors that we knew because they were suddenly available. And we all came back together, and you know what was quite incredible? The rest of the world could not make movies, and we collectively made that movie, and I tell you, it was the smoothest shoot I've ever had. It finished on schedule and under budget, and honestly, that's never happened in my life. I think, let's leave filmmaking and storytelling out of it. I think the reason that happened was when something like being together like this in a theatre, communing in a theatre and watching a movie and laughing with strangers, when that suddenly is taken away as an option, the preciousness of that, I think we collectively as a group knew we were holding an incredibly precious thing, and that was we were making a movie and it was going to be seen in a cinema, and people held that candle and burned it brightly every day we were there. It was such an amazing feeling of we had a mission, you know. I really believe that.
Yeah, it's really nerve-wracking when you've had that amount of time. I think was it a year and a half or was it 2 years by the time we actually shot?
You know what? I'm so bad with numbers and stuff across the studio, but in time, that sounds really good.
It was at least, I think, 18 months
Okay.
for sure.
Right,
You
so
came
let's say
back.
18 months. So I had that amount of time, and then now's the moment of truth. And the first big musical number was shot on day 2 after day 0, essentially.
Yeah.
First day shoot.
Yeah, first day of actual shooting, and that was 6 days special. And so I had this year and a half of preparing. I had all these amazing people believe in me. All of these incredible crafts people came together to make the most brilliant sets, and all the costumes and everything was perfect. But I know that all that really is going to matter at the end of the day is what happens between action and cut. And so that, it puts an incredible amount of pressure on that moment. And I hadn't been out on stage in that way at that point, so I was backstage in the Elvis dressing room, the ones in the film, for the 68th special. And my hands were shaking, and I was so nervous, and it felt like my life was on the line. I knew my career was on the line. I thought, they could still fire me, I think. And I felt so scared. And then it hit me that that's exactly what Elvis was feeling. At that point in his life, his career was on the line, because otherwise he would not have a musical career after that. He'd just done a string of these movies in the 60s and hadn't performed on stage in all those years. And so then I could have this moment of looking at myself in the mirror and just going, take all of that feeling that you have, all the shaky hands, the nervous heart, take it out there and just channel that into the music. And then once I felt a genuine rapport with that audience, and I saw a girl blushing and a man laughing and people rocking out to the music, and suddenly it was this energetic exchange that I understood what a performer gets in that way for the first time. And it was a complete out-of-body experience, and one of the greatest days I've ever had on any set.
Because remember, no one had seen live performance for over 6 months or been in a group of people. And Austin was singing and playing the guitar. It wasn't just kind of playback. It was like they were really watching the show. They were the audience. And when they're acting, those girls that are freaking out, they're not pretending. They're freaking out. And I was going, that girl, she's really freaking out. Yeah, Austin. Ooh, calm it down. But that was extraordinary to see when Austin did the performance moments, and because we'd all been so separated, and because the sequences were played out in full, in full sequences and full songs. It happened in the international showroom, and then they went totally crazy in an international showroom.
I mean, just to give you an idea, I have a team. We are serial collaborators. We really much more. It's this thing of coming from a school that's about acting, and that you have to create an environment first. You know, it's called play acting, a screenplay. And as you all know, children are brilliant at that. They get geniuses pretending. You go bang, they can't pretend. You cannot play with fear in the circle. Now, I extend that thinking to the entire company, to every person. I don't care what you do. We are all in the circle. We work, but there has to be a circle where fear is kept at bay, so you can fail, so that you can rise up above yourself, so that you can have a step that allows you to fly. So we create that environment organically, but also very seriously. Now, having said that, we've got people that have worked with us 30 years, and now I remember, you remind me, we rehearsed the sequence in the showroom so much, and Mandy Walker technically broke down. We built lenses that matched exactly the lenses used in the 50s. She built lenses that matched the one in the 60s. And in the 70s, we went anamorphic, because it's a very famous documentary, that's the way it is, Elvis. Elvis comes on in that documentary. He walks from behind the scrim in the white suit. He tunes the guitar. He walks onto the stage and he does the concert. Every camera was absolutely calibrated, every lens exactly the same. All of the crew, Mandy got them all to learn the songs, learn the music, so they could be musical. So we go there now, to give you an idea of how far out, I've done a lot of far out things, I made Romeo and Juliet in Mexico with Leonardo when he was 19. That was far out. In a good way. And a storm blew me away, that kind of stuff. But I have a grip called Brett. And Brett, pushes the camera around. Great bloke, as we say. He said about 6 words to me probably in 30 years, You just like, watch out, boss, you're going to get squashed, mate. Over here, right? And anyway, he's on one of the main tracks like that. Austin is there, Elvis is there, the music, the audience is there. Like, the cameras are tracking exactly. I've got about 8 monitors and 5 headsets, and I'm like this, and he goes out, and every shot's identical. The audience go absolute opposite at him. And by the way, what we did, we had to shoot out concerts, but then cross-cut that with drama. And it was completely different camera language, completely different. So we needed to use it as a sort of Greek chorus narrative. But we shot out the concerts. So Os went out there in between numbers, he was doing, because he was Elvis, he was doing Elvis kind of banter between the numbers and the way he brought the band in, and the girls are going crazy, and we keep filming, and then it goes on, but he's on. And everyone's like sort of stunned at the end of it. Like, I finally called cut after the 3 numbers we do, and the curtain comes down, he goes, and he does that thing that's in the documentary, he goes, oh, and everyone's like stunned. And Red comes and he goes, boss, oh mate, I'm so sorry, boss. I've done it all. I've done the Star Wars, and I did the Thin Red Line with Terry Malick, and the Supermans. I've done them all, but I've never really experienced anything like that. And I think I was so shaking. I think I might have shook with the camera. Don't worry, I'm shaking too. We'll do it again. You know, it was so far out. I know in my life I will never quite experience that again. I will not experience it because it was beyond movie making. We were at the Elvis showroom concert. It was so far out. And that was